What are some of the things that people do wrong when making their New Year's resolution? And here's the reasons. I'm going to read them right off the page because I wrote them. Either it is or it isn't. Because if you're halfway in between those two things, like I'm going to do it because I want to look good in the clothing in front of my friends so they can say nice things about me. Okay, you've already failed. And you said, you know, Tony, I'm procrastinating all the time. It's really stagnating my life. I'm not getting anything done. I'm going to call it, and I do this, I'm going to write this thing, and I'll do this thing, and I'll follow through, and blah, blah, blah. And then 7 days later, hello, it is I, it's Horton. It's time for Tony Talks. And today's subject is a bit of a two-parter. We're going to talk about problems, solutions, resolutions, and manifestations. Problems. Who's got those? Solutions, who wants those? Resolutions, who's failed on those? Here it is, mid-April almost. And manifestation, which is like moving on to the other side. Break on through to the other side. All right, so I'm going to get into this book today, Romancing the Shadow, and Dr. Stephen Wolf co-wrote this book. I took his course. Look at this. Oh my God. Can you see that? Ash Fitness. Ash Fitness. There's my phone number you can't see. That's my old business card when I was looking for business. So I'm going to get right into it. So let's get into part one. Part number one is looking at maybe for some of you who are really hoping, dreaming, thinking, wanting at the beginning of the year, like so many people often do, they have a resolution, and it all goes to hell in a handcart because of certain things that aren't happening. So this first part is to help you reignite maybe some areas in which you feel like you've fallen off because time keeps on ticking into the future, and you weren't able to continue with your manifestation of your resolutions. So here are some basic questions about that. And then we're going to get into some solution-oriented behavior, strategies, techniques, methods that you can maybe try by yourself or with a partner. And I'll talk about the difference in a second. So, number one, what are some of the things that people do wrong when making their New Year's resolutions? Well, if you have failed miserably in that process, and I already know some folks that have just gone way off the rails. You know what I mean? They said, Tony, this is the year. I'm sick and tired. I'm X amount of years old, and I feel like, you know what, 2024, I'm really optimistic. And then I talk to them, and I go, oh, I've been traveling so much, and work is really hard, and I got COVID, and I got strep throat, and I had to take 2 weeks off, and I injured my wrist, and okay, everybody's got their issues now, and here's the reasons why, and I'm going to read them right off the page because I wrote them, and why not read what I wrote? Because I want to make sure that I'm very accurate and specific in regards to the answers to that question. That question again, what are some of the things that people do wrong when making their New Year's resolutions? Number one, unrealistic expectations. You can't conquer the world in the first 15 days or the first month or the second month or the third month. You know what I mean? This is a journey. This is a lifestyle. I know that sounds cliche and you've heard it a million times. Either it is or it isn't. Because if you're halfway in between those two things, like I'm going to do it because I want to look good in the clothing in front of my friends so they can say nice things about me. Okay, you've already failed. All right. This is who you have to be now. This is your lifestyle. Your old lifestyle, you have to stab it in the face several times, your old lifestyle. Bye, bye, bye. No mas, gone. Goo, 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 goo. All right. New lifestyle. Right? You got the enthusiasm, the excitement, the right people around to be able to do the things that you need to do, and that's what's the key. All right. So unrealistic expectations. You can't conquer the world in some period of time. You have to be this person going forward forever. So the more you do and the longer you do it, the better you'll get at it. And I talk about a couple of people quite often. Andy Lawrence. Now, a lot of you know Andy. He's a friend of mine. He and his brother Joey and Maddie have been good friends ever since I was on their podcast. It's really great to have them. We've even they've been using the Power Life, and they're just all about it. And they volunteered to shoot some ads for us. I don't know if you've seen those yet or not, but they might be floating around. And they're just really good dudes. Now look at Andy. So when Andy met me, we had some conversations about the things that he needed to do and what he needed to consume and what, and he said, all right, so I'm not doing any of that right now. And he was struggling. I'm not going to get into the details of where he was because I don't know exactly what they were, but he's a brand new guy. He was here today. He was here yesterday. He's just here all the time. And, I'm not everybody can show up at my house, but you have to show up somewhere and you have to figure out some way and you have to have some kind of a plan and you have to be accountable somehow if you want this thing to be your lifestyle. All right. And so, number 2, lack of accountability. So let's get right into that. Andy and my friend Vache Azarian, Vache started out in a very different place than Andy. So Andy was, he's had some history with fitness and Vache has as well. But, Andy is not afraid. He pushes really hard. He follows instructions. This is his lifestyle now. And he just feels too dang good, too dang often, all the time to ever alter it. Now, here's the great thing about both of them. They're both willing to put the time and energy in, but the difference is it their genetics? Is it their epigenetics? Is it the biorhythms? Is it the barometric pressure? Is it their intensity? Is it their form? Is it their, is it their age? Is it their relationships with other people? Is it too much yard work? I don't know. But Vache, God dang it, has to work 3 times as hard to get 1/10 of what Andy gets in a shorter period of time. Now, a lot of people who made a resolution, who started at the beginning of 2024 when they met me or whatever it is, and a certain period of time has gone by based on their inappropriate expectations, they're goners, they're quitters, they're out of there, they just assume this is who they are. So Vache now, it's frustrating. It's more frustrating for Vache than it is for Andy because Andy's just like, and besides, Vache is kind of a way out of shape, or was a way out of shape, pretty overweight for his size, ectomorph. So he was a skinny guy who put a lot of goo on him. And so it's taken him a lot of time to get that goo off. And now he's not used to doing the kind of workouts that he's not used to plyo. He's not used to yoga. He's not used to Sunday workouts. He's not used to hour and 15 minute, multi-machine cardio routines. All right, so it's been a bigger, harder learning curve for him, but he keeps coming because he understands, as difficult as it is, if this is his lifestyle, say yes or say no, he said yes, then he's okay with how many rungs up the ladder that he's got to go to be able to reach some kind of, aesthetic change. He's already arrived at his capability spot. You should see him. He was alternating Arnold presses with 45s today. The guy couldn't lift 15s when I met him almost a little about 2 years ago. So strength-wise, athletic-wise, he still hasn't got the physique that he wants. He doesn't have the vascularity. He doesn't have the striations. He doesn't have the six-pack. It's only now 2 years beginning to emerge. And he gets frustrated at times because he looks at Andy, he looks at me, he looks at Brian, he looks at Scott Pfeiffer, he looks at some of the guys we work out with, and everybody's pretty lean and pretty ripped and pretty vascular on various levels. All right, so but he didn't care. He doesn't care. So he just, like, when he gets to the ninja course and he gets all the way through it, and sometimes I don't, which is a little bit frustrating, I'm not going to lie to you. It's just, that's a win. That's a giant win. That's part of the lifestyle. And when Vache went skiing up in Mammoth this past weekend, no leg burn, no lactic acid, top to bottom, not out of breath, none of those things. He was able to enjoy the experience of skiing tenfold over how it used to be such a struggle before, but he still doesn't have the aesthetic appearance that he wants. But he, on the inside, the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, the organs, everything, that makes him go, is working just fine. And the aesthetics will come, Andy has got both in a much shorter period of time. And que sera, that's how it is. Either it's your lifestyle or it's not. You're either okay with how long it takes regardless of what's going on, or you don't. Either you keep on going no matter what, or you quit. And when you keep on going on, and the struggle is still there, and you're okay with the struggle because you understand that's part of the adventure, that's part of your story, regardless of the time frame in which you achieve the things that you want to achieve, then you're in. You win. It's a big W for you. Okay. But if you're that kind of person that's like, oh, you had these unrealistic expectations and then you tried for 3 months and you didn't really see much, then there's probably something about you that says you have not decided to make this your lifestyle. You have not decided to make this more about your physical ability and your athleticism and your flexibility and your balance and your strength and your power and all those things that will come if you keep on showing up 5 to 6 days a week till the day you die. Drum roll, please. Okay, next. So, a lot of people who have decided to make this shift, who say, wink, 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 that this is their lifestyle, have no plan of attack. They have no plan of attack. You have to write stuff down. I'm talking like, you can type it if you want to on your phone or on your desktop or on your laptop, but I like a pen and I like paper. And I like to make sure that I see that piece of paper, maybe with some tape on it, posted up someplace where it stares you in the dang face every day. It's on the back of your front door. It's on your bathroom mirror, or it's on your refrigerator. And I'm not just talking about the foods that you need to eat and the foods you shouldn't be eating. You can put that on your fridge. But I'm just talking about what is your dang plan. All right. So if you got no plan of attack, you have to write down that resolution. And if you write it down, you'll do it. And if you don't, you're winging it. And if you wing it, you won't. That's just been my experience, all right? Next, and then we'll get out of this first category, the resolution, this thing that you wanted, this thing that you desire, and maybe it's just better relationships or earning a few more dollars or whatever it is. Maybe it's not. I'm not talking about diet and exercise and your health and your wellness. I'm talking about any number of things that you want to try to achieve, all right? Well, then it's probably not as compelling as you thought it was initially. All right? It wasn't probably as important as you thought it was. There probably wasn't as much at stake as you thought there was. All right? And when I get into the problem solution manifestation conversation, Emancipation Proclamation, I just like it's like a U2 song. So the thing is here, if it's not compelling enough, then it's probably going to be not worth doing or too daunting, like it doesn't have enough gravitas and it has too much gravitas. You know what I mean? I'm going to climb Everest by the end of January. You gave yourself something stupid that you can't physically do, probably, right? And then you get disappointed because of that? No. All right? That's number one. Okay. Number two, lack of accountability. Lack of accountability. Who and what are you relying on to see this thing through? Is it your husband, your friend, your neighbor, or your coworker? Now, I know I sound like a broken record, but I've said this many times. If it wasn't for the 5 guys that showed up here at the house, now I invited 9, and all these guys are in rotation. They have lifestyles, and they got jobs, and they're going on vacation, and they got work, and they're traveling, all that kind of thing. But if I invite 9, typically at least one will show up. And sometimes it's just Vache, and sometimes it's just Scott. And I invite Bobby Stevenson, from P90X, chest and back, German potato soup. No, he was, Navy bean. I think Bobby had a Navy bean soup, from what I recall, 20 years ago. Bobby can't come very often, but I always put him on the invite list. So I always make him sure that he's always welcome here. And then today he showed up. So today we had Stephen Clark, we had Bobby Stevenson, we had Scott Pfeiffer, we had Vache Azarian, and we had Brian Palatucci and me. Now, Andy was here last night. He couldn't make it today. I think I said he was here today, but that's not true. He was here last night. We could have had 7. We could have had 8 and 9 here. Not everybody could make it. And so when you invite that many people, when you're involved, when you got that kind of group, when you have that kind of posse, all right, when you got the really nice human quiver of devotees, and you got a handful of folks that you can always rely on. You can go to their house. They come to your house. You meet at the gym. I don't care what it is. You do P90X in your garage. You do the Power 4. You do Power Sync 60 with your friends online. I don't know what it is, but you better get them. And if you don't got them, then chances are then it's not a lifestyle. This is not a lifestyle. This is a hit and miss. Hope it all works out. Oh, shucks. I haven't really connected with anybody, so I missed 2 days, 3 days, 4 weeks. I quit. All right. So very, 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 very important. All right. So that is everything. I got plan of attack, compelling. All right, new category, even though they all feel like they're all combined, but this is a brand new category. And here's the question in regards to this category. What are the right ways to make it you stick with it? What are the right ways? So if you got problems and it's not your lifestyle, well then what are some of the solutions? We're going to get into that a little bit deeper later. Don't go it alone, all right, which I kind of covered already. Lower your expectations. Like just, you know what I mean? I mean, if it's all about these ridiculous achievements that you did 20 years ago or 30 years ago, or some friend of yours who's 20 years younger and more athletic than you, you know what I mean? You have to sort of stay within the confines of who you are as a human being and what you can really pull off, and be okay with the fact that, yeah, you're going to have your good days and you're going to have your bad days and you're going to fall down and you're going to be kind of weak and maybe you're doing the Power of 4 or Power Sync 60 or Michael Bradley's Primal Evolution, and you hit a stop option and you go, okay, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. All right. So that way your expectations are show up. Show up. Show up and do something. Show up and do something horribly, terribly, awful, weak, sad, scary, not good. Because that's always 1,745,281,000 zillion times better than just saying, I'm not going to do it. All right, you're going to have those fluctuations in your abilities and your success as you make your way. You week 1, month 1, year 1, year 2, year 3. That's just how it is. All right. So lower your expectations in the first couple of weeks. That lowers your failure rate. Now, if you're already into April and whatever you were planning on trying to do, and that has come and gone, then you just that's water under the bridge. See you later. Okay, I listened to Tony. I'm back in the game. I understand who this is, what this makes me as a human being, my abilities, my quality of my life, my quality of sleep, my sex drive, all these things, like all these incredible things. And the reason why I'm covering this today, and the reason why I'm going to go into this Romancing the Shadow book, and I was going to bring this up later, is I am saddened. I am saddened by seeing article after article, news report after news report of how sad we are as a country, how depressed we are as a country, how low we are, how our self-esteem is in the gutter right now. There are thousands and thousands of solutions to be able to turn things around, and everybody's just sitting in the quagmire, man. And it's too bad. And look, here's the drill. I'm going to see if there's any more waving to do, because I try to do a lot of waving. No, scroll. Oh, and there they are, and there they are, and there they are, and there they are. Whew, I'm all caught up. I was a very sad, depressed kid with a speech impediment that was frightened all the time, that got beat up all the time, that had no self-esteem, that was super weak and not very smart. And I had ADD, and I had ADHD, and I had LMNOP and NYPD Blue. I had every acronym a child could have. I just all the sugar and all the carbs and all the processed deli meat and whatever the heck I was eating. You know, all the ice cream truck would come by and I'd get, I just bubble gum and Charleston Chews and Kit Kats and Dr. Pepper and Mr. Pibb and Coca-Cola and Pepsi and you know, the movement, the physical movement and the things you put in your mouth all create various chemical equations that start in your bloodstream. And then when all that garbage is, you know, coursing through your body, of course it's going to occasionally on the way pit stop into your head. And your head is the thing that makes you either sad or happy or depressed or fired up or whatever it is. And if you can't control your own hands and your own friggin' mouth, and you just succumb to the same old lame habits you've done in the last 5, 10, 50, 20, 35 years, what a shock that things aren't going so good for you. Either you just do something about it, either you make some changes, either you transform yourself, either you hang around new butt-ass kicking, rock and rolling, fired up doers, or you continue to go down that road from hell. And time will continue to pass. There's no one here that I know of that's going to slow that down. It's always going to move forward. And after your early 20s, you just get older. That's it. Everything about you will get older if you don't do anything about it. Now, I've already talked about genetics and epigenetics. So your behavior, your physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual state changes based on good behavior. Now, everybody here knows the difference between good behavior and bad behavior. All right? A big old medium steak with 3 glasses of wine, sorry, not the best behavior. Not it. All right? Do you have to be a vegan like me and drink water and Pellegrino and be dull like that? I don't know. I mean, you have to decide. Your success comes sooner, and it's more satisfying the more discipline you have when it comes to your food and how often you move. But that takes work. I mean, there's a lot of work there. I already got work. I already got family. I already got traffic. I already got bills. I already got stuff. And you want me to do that too? I don't know. I mean, are you happy? Are you joyful? Are you capable? Can you get on your bike and go? Can you come here to my house and get on my ninja course and rip it? Are these things important to you? Can you come to one of my ski events and ski with me right next to me all the way down the mountain? Do you want to have these adventures? Do you want to go these places? Do you want to do these things? Do you want to have these stories to tell? Do you? Or not? Or you just want to be sad and depressed like the vast majority of people in this country? Why? Look at that. Right then there, it got dark. Okay. I will continue, my friends. Lower your expectations. 2, don't judge it. There's too much judging. You know what we do? Let's, all right, everybody, all right, officially, follow right after me. I, Tony Horton, say your name. I will officially, from this day forward, stop judging everybody and everything and myself so horribly that it just slows me down and prevents me from having the life that I want to have. Amen. And that's the judgment thing is brutal. And I do it too. I still do it on occasion. I mean, it's you can ask Shauna. There's no lies about that. But I try to mitigate it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like not everybody's perfect here. Not everybody's going to do everything perfectly 100% all the time. But as long as you're aware, see, it's about awareness. Like a lot of people are just screwing up 6 ways to Sunday and they're completely clueless and they don't know how to find any solutions. We're going to talk about that later when we get into this. All right. They're just stuck in the problem and the problems get worse because time keeps ticking forward and they keep on making more dietary and fitness mistakes or lack thereof or whatever I'm trying to say. And so you have that ability. You are the source. All right. So stop judging. No more judging. Just stop. Just be present. And like, that's my thing a lot of times. When I have a lot of complicated issues to get through and there are other people involved to help me find solutions. And I don't feel like everybody is sort of knocking it out of the park. And I feel like I'm fighting people tooth and nail sometimes to be able to get to a place that I think is the better solution. I judge. There's judgment. Right? But then again, the thing I'm going to talk about later could probably help me. All right. So I will continue. Here's one. Give yourself a tangible goal and write it down and give yourself a realistic date. So, by the way, there isn't just one of these. All right. There isn't just one goal. Like, let's say your goal is to, you look at P90X, 90 days. You look at the Power 4, 90 days. You look at Power Sync 60 days. We set the goal based on the number. We do that already for you. All right. But I cannot tell you, and maybe some of you who are looking in would agree with this fact, that after you finally tried P90X or the Power 4 or Power Sync 60 some of you, a few, the rare, the few, the mighty, started the program, went all the way through and finished those 60 days or those 90 days, and you saw real results. You really felt like there was some weight loss and there was some strength gain and some balance improved and your energy went up and your mind was clearer and you were able to just sort of be present more often and you became a better person because that's what physical fitness does and that's what better eating habits do. All right. Again, a lot of work, a lot of discipline, a lot of scheduling, a lot of planning, a lot of accountability. These are all the little check those boxes. If those boxes aren't all checked, the mindfulness box isn't checked, the supplement box, these all have to be checked boxes All right. But we already know what they are already because we're doing this Tony Talks for 6 months, 8 months. I don't know how long. All right. So either you do it or you don't. And if you do it, you're moving forward. And if you don't, and you only do it occasionally, it's a pain in the ass. All right. So getting to that very point, give yourself the goal. And now you're either going to get to the goal, 60 days, 90 days, whatever it is, physically, mentally, emotionally, it could be, I'm talking finances, whatever it is. And let's say you achieve the goal. Oh, are you done? What do? Do you just dig a hole and hop in and have them cover you with dirt? No, you need new goals. And the goals continue to go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And it can become more complicated because once you achieve something and you want to go to the next level, it's going to be harder. Anybody who did Power 90 and achieved a lot, and then they got P90X, they got smacked in the face. And then the few and the proud who were willing did P90X too. And, there was a finite group of people who did Power 90, and then there was a larger group who did P90X, and then a bunch of people did P90X too and went, I can't do that, I'm out. And that's perfectly okay. If you're in Power 90 shape, you're doing all right. If you're in P90X shape, you're doing really good. If you're in the Power 4 shape, right, PowerNationFitness.com, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're doing all right. You really have to decide, do you want to climb the hill? Do you want to climb the mountain? Do you want to climb the mountain range? It really depends on how far you want to go. And a lot of people have certain points where they feel like, I'm done and I'm going to maintain it. I'm perfectly happy. And that's okay. All right. And anybody who's doing anything often, I was looking at that Daniel Tosh thing. Like people ask me all the time, how, all the time, like breathing and eating and paying bills and going to work and all the time. That's what this has to be. That's what it's called, the lifestyle, because it has to be all the time. It can't be part-time. You know what I mean? Just can't be. It has to be all the time. So you give yourself your goal, you achieve it or you don't. And if you don't, you just move the the end zone forward a little bit. And then when you finally get there, yay! Then you have to set another goal. Does it have to be as massive as the one before? No, just make them little tiny ones. I want to do more pull-ups. I want to try to do more push-ups. I think I'm going to sign up for a 5K because I've been only working out at home. I think, the 5K turns to 10K. 10K turns into a half marathon. Half marathon turns to multiple marathons. You know what I mean? And then you're amongst the people. You're doing the things and you're having experiences. And this is your journey. You look back, right? And then you have to shift. When do you shift and change? Maybe you never did martial arts before. Boom, you're in. Maybe you've never been at a Peloton class. Check that out. All right. Maybe you've never rock climbed indoors. Maybe you started with bouldering and then you're indoors and then you're top roping and then you go from top roping to lead climbing and then you're lead climbing outside and then you're just on Mount Everest or something or wherever, K2. I don't know where you are. Mount Hood. You know what I mean? So again, some people, when they finally arrive to a place where they feel physically, mentally, and emotionally able and they feel stable, when they're physically, mentally, and emotionally able and they feel stable. They don't feel out of control and out of sorts and overwhelmed and overweight and struggling. Then some people want to just like, yeah, man, I'm doing good. I was way down here, but now I'm fine. I don't need to be hanging out with Tony on his ninja course on a Sunday. I don't need to be ripping double blacks in Jackson Hole with Horton. You know what I mean? And I never thought all the things that I am presently doing physically now, I never in my life in a million years when I was in my teens, in my 20s, in my 30s, and in my 40s was able to do the stuff I can do now. And I'm older. Am I a freak? No. Remember, lazy, procrastinator, unathletic, sad, depressed, stuttering C- student. Now, if I can do it, you most certainly can. You just have to decide if it's your lifestyle or not. I will continue. All right. What are some of the tangible ways you can mentally prepare as you move forward, especially after maybe you haven't achieved what you thought you wanted to achieve at the beginning of this year? So one of the things that we add in Power Nation that didn't exist with Power 90 or the Power 4, it just wasn't on the radar. Now I think Beachbody's got a lot more of this now than they used to, because they understand that we as human beings cannot be going full speed all the time. All right, there's a lot of human beings who are just smoking too much weed and can't get off the couch. You know what I mean? And their short-term memory is shot. I'm talking about people in their teens, 20s, and 30s. You know what I mean? I'm not poo-pooing weed. I think it's very beneficial for a lot of people. And that it's also the same with drinking and hanging around with people who are too busy being angry and myopic, pious types. People like that. People who are not open-minded. And so the drill here is, if you finally get into this lifestyle and you find that sometimes it's very difficult, like that you're up and then you're down and you're having some success and you're losing some weight and you gain it again, it's probably because you don't have any kind of mindfulness practices in your life. Now, if you've never meditated before, it's going to maybe be really, really hard. I remember when I got sick, and I got it up there. Where is it? There it is. It's Full Catastrophe Living by Jon Kabat-Zinn. Super sick in 2017 from Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. And I read that book, and I would read paragraphs over and over again. I go, I cannot believe that what he's saying is actually going to do anything. And then I would try some of the stuff, and it wouldn't do anything. Not the first time, not the second time, not the third time. But like the 10th, 11th, 12th, 15th time, I would try some of these meditations, whether it be body scan or whatever it would happen to be. It started to make very teeny improvements. Like I began to sort of recognize what my mental and emotional state was beforehand, which was crap. And then after I would do whatever the meditation was or whatever the breath work was, I would make an instant post meditation analysis on how I felt after. And sometimes it was infinitesimal. It was tiny. But it was easy for me to recognize how I felt before and how I felt after. So if you're in the midst of trying to improve stuff, and you're just grinding all the time, and you're just maxing all the time, and you're doing all these bro workouts. That's like I learned that from Kel Mitchell. He was on my Power Up show. Hopefully you guys will see it. Good Burger 2. He was the star of that movie, and he was a childhood actor, and he's an actor, comedian, rapper, pastor. He's a very interesting guy. He's really come a long way. He's got an amazing life. And so, as a pastor, he's got prayer. Shauna, my wife, prayer is her go-to. You know what I mean? Sometimes, and that requires shutting down and being quiet. You don't have to get on your knees. You don't have to be in lotus, whatever it is. But it usually requires internal conversation. Either with your higher being or just internally with yourself. All right, like oh my God, M. Scott Peck. I've mentioned M. Scott Peck. The Road Less Traveled, Further Down the Road Less Traveled, The Road Less Traveled and Beyond. He's written dozens of books. He's passed away, 10, 15 years ago. But his whole thing was an hour and a half of prayer and an hour and a half of meditation. And when he was praying, he was talking to God, and when he was meditating, he was listening. That was sort of his thing. I have more of a secular approach. But I understand that if I want to continue to stay on this journey, I have to have some downtime. And it doesn't have to be in lotus. It doesn't have to be praying. It doesn't have to be, sitting quietly in a room with a candle. It can just be doing something that takes your mind off all the crap that's happening in your life and around the world, because it can be very overwhelming and it can be very stressful, and it can cause a lot of internal angst because of the opinions that come shooting out of your face. And it has to be something that's pleasant and lovely and thoughtful and nice and good. You know what I mean? Do you know the difference between teeth gritting and eyebrow furrowing and gnashing of and angst and yelling and, you know what I mean, and anger and sadness and depression? These are all real emotions and they happen. But just those emotions, right, as tough as they are on your physical, mental, and emotional state? Because your adrenal glands, boo, your cortisol levels, right? That's what happens when you're just pounding physically, mentally, and emotionally all day. So if you are that kind of person, and this happens with exercise, you can overdo it. Obviously, people have overtrained. They're trying to do too much. They're doing 2-a-days and 3-a-days, whatever, trying to achieve more than they should. And they're burning out. The candle is burning out, and they bonk, and they get injured, and then they start plateauing, and then they also get bored, and then they start thinking about, well, maybe this isn't for me, because the mindfulness component just isn't there. So where's my mindfulness list? I had it here. All right, here we go. Here's my mindfulness list. I love listening to music, all kinds, mellow music, whatever, just something really, Sean and I have one that's called Shauna's List. There's 105 songs on it. It's just lovely. It's just wonderful. And then going for walks, just walking. Hello, when Sean and I were in Paris and Rome and London, which, you're on vacation with the woman you love. So we just walked everywhere. And, it was so easy to be present. It was so easy to laugh and enjoy ourselves because we were with each other, but we were also walking everywhere. All right. We took cabs too, if it was like a long way, but that was important. My dog, Charlie, we have Teddy and Lola too, but Charlie's in the house. He's in my lap. He's reaching out. That dog, every time he's there, it's instant. Heart rate goes down. Blood pressure goes down. And I used to take naps. I don't seem to be needing them very often. Sometimes I'll doze off if I'm watching the tube, but it's not an intentional nap. It's like and then I'll go down. Also, meditation, all kinds, body scan, doesn't matter. There's a bunch of them. And then breath work, 4x4, 4 in, 6 out, 5 hold. There's just so much different kind of breathing that you can do. Just slows down. Like also breath holds are super powerful. Big inhale, hold for 30. Big exhale, hold for 10. Big inhale, hold for 30. I mean, whoa, man. It's just powerful stuff. And then just 5-10 minutes of sun salutations. That's kind of my go-to because there's a mindfulness component. I'm also working on flexibility. I'm working on range of motion. I'm working on balance. I get all 4 of those things at the same time by doing 5-10. I'll do Warrior 1. I won't even do Warrior 2. I'll just do, I'll do a vinyasa, inhale, exhale down, step or jump back to plank or chaturanga, come to upward dog, another push-up or not, skip it, back to downward dog, pedal the feet, float the right heel in the air, swing it through between your feet, come up, Warrior 1, get your hips square, back leg is straight, back foot is down, arms are up, bring hands to prayer, go to the floor, pop, 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 right, left. Ain't nobody here who's looking in right now and listen to what I got to say who would do that for 5 or 10 minutes, who wouldn't dramatically alter your state of mind. Plus the balance, plus the flexibility, plus the strength. At the same time, on a mat, in your bare feet, in your boxer shorts, or your top hat. I don't know what you're wearing, but it works every time. All right. The mindfulness thing is going to allow you to keep moving forward, have this lifestyle work for you, have it be part of who you are. But if you've never done it before and you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, it's a dramatic mind game about just jumping into something like that. But either you do it or you don't. You do it or you don't. And if you don't, well, boo-hoo to you. All right. I can't help you. I can lead you to the water. You either drink the freaking water or you dry up and die before your time. And there's no hyperbole in that. Sorry. It just isn't. Also, I get out in the yard. I mean, I love the cactus. Down where we live, there's these huge cactus, just wild cactus. And they're huge. You just break one off. And I sometimes don't bring gloves, so I get splinters in my fingers that last a couple of days, but whatever. And I break one off and I shove it in the ground. And there's cactus all over my yard. It's just like a thing that I do. And it just makes me happy. And I go, I'm going to run down and get a cactus right now. You know what I mean? It doesn't hurt the cactus. It's already down to this massive. It'll just fill right in from where it was. All right. And then reading, right? So romantic, if I hadn't read this book, I wouldn't be able to tell you about it. And I wouldn't be able to practice the things I did. All these books back here, read them all. And I applied them to my life. And now I'm better. Because these books, they all told me what to do based on the authors that wrote them who practiced those things, so they got good at those things, so they wrote a book about it, and so I read them. And not everything in all these books works for me, but the things that did, that's who I am. I am the books I read, I'm the seminars I go to, I'm the people that I hang out with. Half my behavior is from Billy Idol, Raw at Night, fantastic. Raw, hanging out with him for 5 years. And then just being with Shauna. Every time I look at my wife, it's like, oh my God, you married me? Like, why did you marry me? I'm such a freak, such a weirdo, such a nut job. But, she gets me, and she loves me, and I love her, and it's just, I'm going to cry in front of everybody. It's just loving. And then last but not least, which I have 11 things on my list, not 10, is just being altruistic. Like the whole point of this whole thing, having this lifestyle, right, is to connect with others, is to help others, not to shove it down their throat, not to give them the kind of advice they've never been asked for in the first place. Don't stop you shoulding. No you shoulds. No shoulds allowed. You have to wait. Sometimes you wait for years. But you got to live your life, do it your way, and other people will notice they're doing good. They've been doing good a long time, and they seem relatively happy, and the rest of us are sad and depressed here in America. And then they knock on your door, or they never do, and they just, right? But you could offer, without a you should, hey man, I notice you're kind of struggling a little bit. I'm here for you if you need me. No advice, not going to do it. I'm here. I've learned a thing or two. I feel pretty good. I know that you're kind of struggling. My door's open. Phone is off, is ready for you to call. Text me if you want. You know what I mean? That's okay. You're not giving advice that way. You're just letting people know that you're there for them. All right? So that's it. All right? And now here are all the other things that maybe you're not doing, and that's the reason why this is a struggle. If it's a struggle and you're bored and you're plateauing and you're getting injured, you're also, regardless of the mindfulness list I just read off, you're missing the recovery list. And here's my recovery list. I got a cold plunge, sauna, foam roll, massage, jacuzzi, compression, pants and things, supplements, proper protein with HMB and vitamin D3 and chromium, and heating pads and proper amount of hydration with electrolytes and proper sleep and the proper bed and proper pillows, proper sheets, proper room, cryotherapy. It's just, you know what I mean? You don't need 12 of them. Maybe you need 3 of them. All right? So pendulums. Right, here's the pendulum. Right here, it's right here. And you drop it, it goes and it goes back. And it goes back. And back and forth and back and forth. And too many people's pendulum is getting burnt out, bunking, overdoing it, frustration, no results, bored, injuries, and plateau, all here. They don't even let the pendulum reach the halfway point, which is just sleep, just chilling. All right? A lot of people, I got a mindfulness list and recovery list, and the one thing that we all do is sleep. And it's gold, but we're on crappy old pillows that we've had since from high school. We're on beds that are more like hammocks. All right, we're looking at our phone and our laptop and our desktop and everything before we go to bed, right? And so we're not wearing our blue glasses, and we're not, the electromagnetic EMFs are messing with the cells in our bloodstream and making it hard to fall asleep at night. I mean, there's a lot. It's complicated, man. It's complicated. And at a certain point, you go, how much more is there? Like, how do I, you know what I mean? But if you make 2 or 3 adjustments, maybe you're further along than you could have been if you started doing these 2 or 3 things. Okay, next. The one thing that's important too, and this is to the what are some tangible ways you can mentally prepare for change. One of them is tell the whole world. Don't keep what you're doing a secret, because now the pressure's on. Hey, I'm going to start to work out. Hey, I'm going to go vegan. Hey, tell everybody. And then when you tell everybody, also tell everybody that they can't schedule stuff while you're doing these things. Because these things have to have a time frame in which you do these things. whatever they are, whether it's cardio or weights or body weight or HIIT training or going to the gym or whatever it is. They're going to the rock climb or going skiing. You're right. They tell them all and tell them this is who you are, and you're turning a leaf, and tell your spouse and tell your kids. And then if you don't do it, they'll remind you. They will remind you. And so then you're that person. You're the person that told everybody, because a lot of people, they keep it secret. That way they could fail and no one would know. All right? That's accountability piece number 10 right there. Check that box. Let them know. What am I doing what's the hair? I have no part here. I don't know if I like this. I gotta fix it. I'm just noticing that. Oh, just got better. Didn't know it could be that easy. So don't keep it a secret. Share it with the people in your life who support you, not the ones who will judge you. All right, so that's important. Make sure you tell the right people. Don't tell people who are just awful. You're like, oh, why are you doing this? Oh, you're announcing it again. Why? You always fail. Yeah, right? So, I mean, if the whole country's sad and depressed, then you might only have one or two people who you can trust. And then when we get into this thing I'm going to talk about, you might only have one or two. And some people have none. And if you don't have any, when it comes to manifestation of the things that you want in your life, taking your problems and turning them into solutions and then manifesting those things into a better life, then you're going to have to go solo on that. All right, and I'll get into that more in a bit once I'm done with this little list. All right, so don't keep yourself. Be honest with yourself regarding your progress or lack thereof. This will help you change gears if you need to, so you can keep going instead of quitting. This is really important. I want to tap into this right here, right now. It's okay that you picked the wrong thing. It's okay that you did a program that was too hard. It's okay that you started a program that was maybe too easy or boring after a while. It's okay, in a way, that you trained too hard and you got hurt. But if any of those scenarios happened, which they often do for a lot of people, then that's a sign that they shouldn't ever do anything ever again. Which, as you and I both know, is stupid and ridiculous and whatever. You didn't make a mistake as much as you miscalculated. All right, and people miscalculate all the time. Now, some people are shockingly tenacious and will shock themselves and be able to physically do things that they never thought they could do. And a lot of it has to do with maybe whatever else is happening. They have low stress, or they sleep really well, or they have a really good mindfulness practice, or they know how to modify or power down, or whatever. They're really astute in the process when they're in the midst of maybe choosing a program that is maybe above their level of fitness. Other people, you know what I mean? They got those high expectations, and they jump in the deep end, and it all goes to hell in a handcart. And they think that reinforces the fact that there they go again. They should probably never do this. And so if that is the case for you, then you got to go do something else. You just stop that. You stop that thing. There it is, whatever. It's a program that I gave you, or something, that CrossFit thing that you tried, or whatever, that level 2.5 Pilates class where they got you doing handstands on the reformer. You know what I mean? Like, at some point you have to sort of look inside, know how important this is, know that this is your lifestyle now, and that whatever little mishap happened along the way does not mean it's all done. It just means that you need to make an adjustment. And so you could judge that, or go, oh okay, well, whatever. What else can I try? And by the way, that thing, that mishap or that program, that could happen 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times in a row. Think about the person who just tries and fails and tries and fails and tries and get hurts and tries and doesn't like it and tries and bored and try, right? And they keep trying. They find that one. For a lot of people, P90X was that one. For a lot of women right now, Power Sync 60 is that one because of what Dr. Mindy Pelz and I did, the way we constructed that thing. The way we synchronized Power Sync, get it? Synchronized pre-post perimenopausal cycles of women, so that with the power ups and the power downs and the stop options and all the things And all the, like 4 or 5 cast members doing different stuff. I see hearts going up. Yeah, giddy up. All right. Let's see if there's any waving. Waving and waving and waving and da-da-da-da and waving. Oh my God, I've missed out on so much waving. Hello. I don't know what the waving does. Does that do anything? You get this? Is that's satisfying, I guess? But here I am, man, helping you out. Oh, and I got to wave back. Nice. Hi, Harley girl. Waving and waving. So much waving. Scotty Morgan's here. Scotty Morgan drove 5.5 hours to watch the moon go over the sun for 3 minutes. I hope it was worth it, bro. I hope it was. Watching it on TV from Mexico to Maine, that was worth it. Sitting there, just like fast forwarding through the stupid crap and just watching all the different pictures people took. Here in LA, it was 40%, so it was pretty uneventful here in LA. Oh my God, so much waving, so much waving. Gosh. All right, I'm going to stop the waving for a bit here. All right. How are we doing on time? 6:26 started at 5:36. So we're doing okay. All right, next. How important is it to celebrate the small victories along the way? Oh my God. How important is that? Are you kidding me? That is a must. And do you do it with cake? No, you don't do it with cake. It's really important to recognize that, to watch the numbers in the scale go down, even though I know the scale's not the most important thing. But if it's moving down, that means you're doing something right. You know what I mean? It means that you're backing off from the crappy food and you're doing the right kind of workouts so that, your body is shrinking to a certain degree. And when your body is shrinking a little bit, you can do more stuff, right? There's less body in the way. And when there's less body in the way and you're exercising along the way, improving your flexibility and your balance and your strength and your power and your cardiovascular endurance, then you're just happier. And this whole thing is really about how do you get to be happier? And when you know that you're the source and you can do these things and also change your diet, you're not relying on short-term pleasures to create all the problems that a lot of people have. You're not relying on your doctor and your pharmacist and the liquor store. You know what I mean? Anymore. Because you've taken control. You are the source. No one else. So tracking your progress is rule number 1 when it comes to attaining your goals. And so let's say you're doing one of these multiple different things and you find yourself getting bored, you find yourself getting hurt, and you find yourself kind of struggling. There was probably you probably gained some strength and you probably got a little bit more flexible and you probably lost a little bit of weight. You know what I mean? And then maybe it just stopped happening. Because of whatever, your range of motion didn't improve and you were skipping workouts too often. And that can be a problem, because of travel, because of illness, because of just scheduling, because of lack of accountability. You know what I mean? And even doing a little bit of something some of the time is going to allow you to achieve certain goals, maybe not the ones that you had hoped on certain dates as you move through this thing. And that's okay. But as you progress through one program all the way through without getting bored and hurt and all those things I talked about, then just write them all down. I mean, in P90X, we had you writing stuff down all the time. So you could look back and go, man, I'm lifting so much more. I can do so many much more reps. It's written here on a piece of paper, and it proves to me that I'm doing okay. And then maybe after 25, 30 years, you don't have to do that anymore. All right? But I kept a journal. When I used to go to World Gym and there's Lou Ferrigno and there's Arnold Schwarzenegger and there's all these bodybuilders in the gym, and I wasn't a bodybuilder, I wasn't, doing that. But I had this little gray journal. I should break it out one of these days. If I knew where it was, I'd go get it. And I still have it tucked away in a closet somewhere. And you could see day after day and week after week and month after month and year after year of all the exercises and how many reps and how many weights. And it was trippy. About 3 years ago, I looked at it. I was like, wow, I can't believe I was struggling with that exercise with that weight and how much I had improved over all those years. It's just a nice way to know. It's a nice way to know. And some people just still do it. I do it after decades and decades. I don't so much. I count, and when I'm suffering miserably, I stop and exercise. Next. Also, tracking your mistakes and failures is just as important. so that you won't repeat them. All right. And again, and how do I want to say this? Your missteps and your mistakes. What was the other word that I wrote here? Failures. Not really a failure. You know what I mean? Just make note of that and then make that shift into something different. Because anytime you do anything different, you're going to notice, your body's going to respond to it. Even if you're really super fit, you can start doing something that you thought was like yoga. I thought yoga was a joke. And I got in there and I got my butt handed to me and like, oh my God, I thought I was Mr. Fitness. Like, I can't do half of this stuff. I don't know what half of it is. Like, I didn't know Baddha Konasana from Warrior 2, right? So there was a big learning curve there. And just downward dog was miserable. And then it wasn't after many months, And there's this whole thing that I do all the time that saves my life that I didn't even know it existed. And I always made note. I always made note that, okay, that move was hard and that move was hard. And when I would go back to the class, I go, here we go. What can I do? How can I get my leg through without having to grab my ankle and bring it up? Or how can I look around and I would see, oh, that Warrior 2 is ugly. That Warrior 2 is good. And sometimes, if I had a decent coach or a decent yoga instructor, they would kind of help me out. A lot of them didn't. But that always helped as well. It's nice to see things improve. It's nice to track those things. It's also important to see when things aren't improving and to make note of those as well. All right. Let's see here. Next, 5. What are some of the tools that you can use to help you stay on track? And then I wrote here, all the above. So yeah, everything I just said, it's basically going to help you stay on track. If someone falls off track, that doesn't mean they failed. How can they stay positive to try again? So I'm just going to read what I wrote here. If you fall off track repeatedly, it might mean this thing this year may not be the right goal. So pick something new, which I've already said. There's no New Year's resolution rule that your first resolution can't be replaced by another one if the original one isn't going according to plan. Second and third options give you the opportunity to still succeed. And I believe I already said that. So, okay. That's the first part of our conversation. Now, let's see, we're almost at an hour, and this will probably go an hour and a half. So hang in there with me. Is there anybody need anything to drink? Anybody need a break? I'll let you go. Okay, we're back. So, there's a lot of people who are struggling needlessly all around this country, all around the world. All right. And there's a lot of anger, and there's a lot of sadness, and there's a lot of depression, and a lot of people feel overwhelmed, and they don't like the trajectory that their life is going on. But oddly enough, what a lot of people don't have, and a lot of people, look, if you know that exercise is a solution and you're consistent with it and that's part of your lifestyle, then I'm guessing you're not in that list, like me. If you're making decent dietary changes where you're eating whole foods, single ingredient foods mixed in with other single ingredient foods that maybe don't come out of boxes, bottles, cans, and bags, and some really good healthy stuff comes out of bottles, boxes, cans, and bags, right? But you have made a change. You do know that the food that you're eating is filled with vitamins, minerals, and tons of nutrients in general. If the majority of your food has that, and it doesn't have other types of ingredients that counter what those things do, or are so bad that they don't even have nutrients and vitamins and minerals, or just things that are causing disease and sinus problems and weight problems and hypertension and stroke and heart attacks and cancer, right? Because that's we're back to the epigenetics thing, right? You are who you are. Your parents made love, and they made you, and that's you. And you are versions of them. And maybe you're more mom than dad, and more dad than mom. But look at your parents if they haven't really taken care of themselves, right? You are that. You're not getting out better based on luck. Ain't happening. All right. So the epigenetics comes in when you make some, thank you, Tony, for that. I appreciate your willingness to put that out there, buddy. I'm going to wave to Sharky Girl. But yeah, like it's funny. Tony says, turn to Jesus Christ. He's the true solution in pure peace, love, and joy. He took away my depression, anger, etc., and set me free. Gold, dude. So that's amazing. That's amazing. That's not everybody's route. You know what I mean? Some people, have a different route, and that's a good thing. I mean, if you're the kind of person who feels like you do it your way and I'm doing another way, and we're going to have an argument about that, well, that's just not the way to do it. You know what I mean? Live and let live, right? That's kind of nice. And if you can have influence on other people in regards to the way you operate, and that person feels more love and more joy and more happiness and less sadness and depression, then that's the direction that you need to go in. But if that person is doing a certain thing, whatever, or a group is doing a certain thing, and you just feel bad, that ain't your thing. You know what I mean? Don't get caught up in the wave if it ain't your wave, all right? So with that said, I digress. No shock there. Folks who are moving and eating clean have an advantage over everybody else who is not doing that. Just purely based on the chemical reaction that is happening from your hair follicles down to your toenails. That's just it, all right? But a lot of times people they want these things. They want to feel these things. They want to have this energy. They want to feel strong. They want these things. But there's all these other ancillary things surrounding them that just make that lifestyle impossible. So the sadness and the depression, look, now this is just my experience. I hope I'm not giving any kind of unsolicited advice here. But there are ways and strategies that you can try. And I learned this by reading this book, Stephen Wolf's Romancing the Shadow. And I also learned a particular resolution, solution technique that involves you working with another person that you have to absolutely trust. And it could be your kid. It could be your spouse. It could be a friend. It could be a neighbor, whoever it is. And by the way, asking a friend or a neighbor or spouse or somebody to do this thing with you is going to take some cojones, man. But you know who's in your life that just has got your back. All right? Hopefully, everybody here has somebody who's got your back, who can do this exercise that I'm about to explain to you so that you can help you get out of that tough spot that you're in. Now, raise your hand here. Let me see the hands, the waves. The waves will be, I don't know, maybe there's another thing you can put up. Hearts? I don't know. If you have no problems whatsoever, like you're problem-free. I don't know what symbol that would be. But you're like, I'm good all the day, 24/7, sleep like a baby, happy, joy, nothing going on. I got all the money in the world. Hearts, I don't know. Waves, I don't know what it is. I don't know anybody like that. But a lot of people who are struggling in these ways with sadness and depression, according to every friggin' article and TV thing I see, there's a lot of people in this country who are just bummed out. You know what I mean? Like when who is the Sesame Street character that asked how everybody was doing? Got like 4.9 million bummed out people who said everything sucks. Maybe they, or maybe some of you want to try this. All right, so this is the solution technique. Now, if you don't have anybody in your life that you can sit down face to face. Now, this scenario requires that two people either sit on pillows on the floor, or you can sit in chairs if that's uncomfortable. It's just a simple chair, and you're only a few feet apart from each other, and you're just looking at each other, right? Now, there's a facilitator and a facilitatee. Now, when I took, it was an 8-week course, and then what happened was we would practice this technique. We did a lot of different things, but this was a solution technique when people were struggling with various aspects of their lives. And the way we used to do it in this class, and then after we graduated, we were given the opportunity to go into groups and whatever, the particular people that were in my class, not everybody's joined in, but I think it was like 8 or 9 or 10 people who went through this course who continued to meet at various people's apartments or homes once a week to go through this technique. Because, just because you go through an 8-week course, just because you go through P90X doesn't mean you gotta keep on practicing what you learn so that you can continue to see results, correct? Look, I'm 65 and I did shoulders and arms today and I killed myself, and I did cardio last night for an hour and 20 minutes. And just because I got super great shape in my late 30s and 40s doesn't mean I was done. And when it comes to sort of finding solutions to solve your problems, this is a thing, because problems are coming. They're always going to come. There's so many circumstances and things that are happening within your life, at work, with family, personally, with injuries and disease and everything, car accidents. It's freaking endless, But we want to be able to get through all this stuff. Sean and I have had this conversation lots of times. Getting stuck in the problem for too long and meandering in the problem and complaining about the problem and doing the finger pointing and saying it's his fault or her fault or I don't, whatever it is, then where are you? You're sad and depressed. So what if you had something, a method? And it doesn't always work. And it's sometimes, when I took this class and a bunch of us got together week after week after week, I was so distraught. The reason why I took this class is because nothing was working, and I was poor as hell, and I was lonely, and I lived in this crappy apartment forever, and I was dead up to my ears, and I would just mope. All right? I was just moping. Occasionally I get off my ass and I try something and do something, and sometimes it failed and it didn't, and I judged the crap out of it, and then I wouldn't do anything for 3 or 4 months. I was so freaking lame. I was such a loser that I took this class, and then now it's time. We've graduated. We're going to get together these people. So what would happen is we would meet, whether I was in the class or after we all graduated, and there were like 8 or 9 or 10 of us. Now, this won't be the case for many of you. I wouldn't think. You're not going to do it quite this way. But you can do it with one person. But the reason why you'd have one person here, sitting, facing each other. I'm talking that far apart. Like, you're not nose to nose. But your knees, if you're sitting in chairs, are that far apart. And you can't look at the ground. You can't look at the sky. And you got to look the person in the eyes the whole time. And that can be really weird and intimidating if you're not used to doing that. I see a lot of athletes, they get interviewed after games and they're looking everywhere because they can't even look at the reporter in the eye. I don't know why. It's just young athletes sometimes have a tough time. Boom. You know what I mean? But it's critical because it's harder to, excuse my French, it's harder to bullshit the person if you're looking at them straight in the eyes all the time. And if you're pretty good at lying and you can look people in the eyes, well, then you're just a pro. And you're scary. I don't want to meet you. So you're sitting face to face. And so there's a facilitator and a facilitatee. Now, if there were 8 of us, it was kind of random as to who would be the person. And we would do this about 3 or 4 times. And this took time. And we would meet for about an hour and a half, 90 minutes, 2 hours. I don't know if you can't even remember if we were there for 2 hours. But if somebody was, hey, man, I really need help. And I want to go through the exercise, and we would say, all right, you're in. You know what I mean? You would just say right away. And if there were like 5 people that wanted to be, and it was very rare that all 8 or 10 were like, I'm in. Some people just wanted to observe. All right. And to be the facilitator required rules. All right. You had to go through the course to understand how to deal with the person who is struggling, who's got problems, who wants to try to find answers. This person has to ask the right kinds of questions the right way. The goal here, this person cannot judge this person, cannot give advice to this person. They have to ask open-ended questions so that this person didn't feel like this person was telling that person how to find their solutions. All right. This person had to ask the right kind of questions of this person with problems so that this person could figure it out on the spot. not necessarily solve it on the spot because you're sitting there in somebody's house. You're not gonna, there's stuff that you got to do during the course of the next 7 days until you all show up again the following week. All right. So here's an example. And by the way, if you don't have a person like this, your husband, your wife, coworker, then this is something that you can still do in your head. You just need paper and pen. Is everybody following me so far? Am I making any sense here? Is this some kind of crazy, wacko California thing that I did? So here's an example. The person who needs facilitating, who has a problem. You can't have 10. You only can have one. You can only approach one topic. I'm dealing with this and this and this and this. No. One thing. All right? At a time. Now, if there's 8 or 10 people so what happens is facilitatee, everybody else would sit in a circle around these two and observe. They weren't allowed to talk at all. All they were allowed to do was to notice within themselves what this conversation these two people were having that helped them, like, oh, I can relate to that, or I know that, or, you know what I mean? They just had to keep it to themselves, and they could write down, they could make notes or whatever too. A lot of people did, some people didn't. On how this conversation with this person struggling with whatever, and this person struggling, helping that person, and how that related to some issues that were going on in their lives, the people that were sitting in the thing. Okay, so here's just a random example. And this is not based on anything that I witnessed when I was with this group. I love that you're just sitting here like a sponge. So the first person says, I need to be facilitated today. And that person would say, 8 or 10 people, Larry, I want you to be my guy. All right. And so Larry and anybody that was part of this had to say yes, because they've been through the course. They know the drill. They know how not to judge, and they know how not to give advice. They know how to ask open-ended questions. All right. Anything that would help that person release the load, the pressure, the pain, the issues. Okay. So let me think of a good, let's say there's a gal and she's got this issue that she wants to resolve, and she takes Larry, and Larry sits down, everybody kind of gathers around and they're all watching. And we'll call her Sue and Larry. So Sue has 1 minute. That's it. 1 minute to describe what's happening, what the problem is. And that's it. She doesn't get into feelings. She just says, here is the feeling. And then, the thing about Larry will say, can you establish, his job is to say, can you tell us what the problem is, what the issue is, what you're struggling with? And then let's say Sue says, my relationship with my mother is out of control. It is just, it's worse than it's ever been. All she does is just bitch and moan and complain and tell me I'm a loser and that I'm never going to go anywhere. And I have no clue on how to deal with this. It just brings me such sadness and depression that my own mother just treats me like crap. Now, I don't know. That was whatever. What is it? 18 seconds? She got a minute to get whatever she needed to get out. Okay. And then Larry's first question would be this, which I know this sounds crazy. Sue, as I sit here, as everybody sits here, tell me if what you just said is without exaggeration, without hyperbole, which is it absolutely true based on your experience? Is there anything there that you sort of you felt like you overdid? Just tell me that. Is it absolutely thoroughly from head to toe, everything you said, absolutely true? And then she would, and then so having been here, because what happens is if you're bullshitting or exaggerating, right, then the problem isn't as bad as you think it is because you're not really looking at it really realistically. So Stephen Wolf, from what I remember, it's a long time ago, would say, you have to make sure that what you're saying is absolutely true, because a lot of times when you're dealing with somebody and you're working on something like that and there's people in the circle observing, you have a tendency to pontificate. There's a tendency to exaggerate. There's a tendency to make stuff up so you can look like, you're struggling more than maybe you actually are. And so hopefully Sue, wave and wave and wave and wave and wave, all the waving, would say to him, especially after having been through the course and knowing how important truth is. All right. Hopefully she was, maybe she would say, yeah, maybe I went too far about that. It's not that bad. You know what I mean? Hopefully if that's the truth, then that's what she would say. Or she would say, God's honest truth, from my heart to God, or whatever she would say, this is how it is. This is how I perceive it. This is what's going on. And then Larry would say, okay. And then everybody in the circle, now of course you wouldn't, if you're going to get this far, we got like 2 people and you want to start a group like this, I would read the book first, you know what I mean? Read the book first. But if it's just the 2 of you, again, you got that person, open-ended questions, no judging, no advice, again. So Larry would say, okay, I know what the problem is. You've established what the problem is. You're truthful with explaining what the problem is. And then Larry's next question. How does all of that, what emotions come up for you based on what you just told me? And man, oh man, when you're sitting there, you got to be vulnerable, man. If you really want to get through this sort of thing. And this is hard. This is not something that a lot of people can do. It's just tough. And so Sue would say, and tears come out of eyes. This is where, because here's this person that you trust, who's not judging, who's not giving advice. It's just asking open-ended questions, is asking you how you feel about this relationship with your mother. And Sue lets it rip. Such great sadness. It's so heartbreaking. It's so it just makes me incredibly sad. Right? And then she'll go through the layers of that. All right? Whatever. Sadness, depressed, anxious, unresolved, anger. I got anger here. I got sadness here. It's my, whatever it is. And then Larry would say, do you feel safe going deeper than that? All right. So what's the problem? What are the feelings? And do you feel safe with me as your facilitator to go even deeper? And then it's possibly that Sue could talk about physical abuse, or maybe she would say, no, there are other things, but I can't go there. I don't want to do that in front of you. There's certain things I want to say or not want to say. This is as deep as I can go. And some people just boom, physical abuse, sexual abuse, it just gets nuts, right? And of course, everybody who is part of this has to sign sort of an NDA, I guess. All right, especially now, this was before social media. I mean, can you imagine how people can abuse other people? The trust is lost. I mean, think about that. The next problem would be my facilitator told my story on Instagram. So, this is a lot of trust and a lot of truth that has to happen here for this to work. And so at that point, Sue would go either, nope, this is all I want to say. Everybody in the circle knows. You know how I feel. I don't want to go into some of the deeper stuff. And then Larry would go, okay, because that's what you want to do. These are the rules. Great. So here we go. Next. And by the way, this can take longer than this, obviously. I mean, we're already at almost an hour and a half. Larry's next thing is the most important part of this whole thing, because we know what Sue's issue is. We know how Sue feels about what the issue is. We also know that there were maybe other things that created great pain for Sue, but she wasn't willing to go there. And then maybe some people do. Now the next question is that Larry asks Sue, what are the steps that you can take knowing you have no clue on what the outcome will be? to sort of mitigate and improve this situation with your mother. You've got 7 days. Let's say the thing's on a Tuesday, like this talk. She has Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. When she shows up on Tuesday, she no longer is the facilitator, or she can be the facilitatee. No, she can be the facilitator, but she can't go 2 weeks in a row. There's always got to be room for somebody else. But because she was the person that was, that was worked on, she gets to come in 7 days later and go, here's what I did. So when he asks her, what you gonna do? She has to sit there and she has to sort of, in the moment, on the spot, figure out what it is that she's gonna say or what she's gonna do. I'm gonna call my mother and I'm gonna set up a lunch where we can have an honest conversation. I'm gonna have everything. This is just, made up. I'm gonna have a list of all the things that really upset and really bother me, and I want to tell her honestly, openly, without judgment, like she knows the drill. But we've never had a conversation like that, and so that's my first attempt. Knowing that her mother might lose it and tell us she's even more crazy, and that's that. And it's not like she's gonna fix her mom, but she's gonna at least make, and texting, there was no texting then. And emailing, there was no emailing then. There was the phone and there was in person when I went through this course. All right. So, by the way, phone, bad idea. Texting, terrible. Emailing, horrible. DMing on Instagram, nightmare. All right. This is grown up stuff to find real solutions to what's going on with you that requires an eye-to-eye thing. The eye-to-eye thing happens with your facilitator, and it happens with whoever it is that you're struggling with out in the world. All right. Now, there are certain problems that these are usually typical things, but these are usually relationship things. There are other ones too, other examples where people are struggling with their boss, you know what I mean? And again, or they're struggling with a kid at school, or maybe it's just they're wanting to work out and they're starting and they're stopping and they're starting and they're stopping. So what's the problem? I want to get in shape, but I never do, and I start and stop. Okay, well, how does that make you feel? Any deeper stuff than that? Okay, you got 7 days to get your act together and decide what you want to do. That one's easy. You sign up for the gym. You get Power Sync 60. You clean out your freaking pantry, throw out all the crappy food. You go shopping, get real food. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you have to say to that person face to face. And then 7 days later, you got to come back and tell them whether you did it or not. And I cannot tell you, and the reason why I quit this group, and I did it for 2 years, and nobody knows, no one I know who's in that group is here, I wouldn't think. I would come back week after week after week after week, and the majority of the people in that group would not do anything in the 7 days. I go, oh, Stu, what happened? Well, I just, my mother, she was out of town, and I did, what? And I couldn't, I just was too afraid. Well, what the F was all this that we sat through where you were like, this is what happened, this is how you feel, and this is what you're going to do, and you didn't do it? Well, what are you going to do in the next 7 days? Well, I'm out of here, man. I would get in that circle and I would go, do, this is how I feel, and I would sob, and then I would just write down my crap and I would go do it. Now, here's the thing. Quite often, the thing that I was going to do didn't solve anything. But what it did was it conjured up other tactics. Because tactic 1 didn't work. Tactic 2 didn't work. And sometimes 3 and 4 and 5 didn't work. It just meant that I had to, if it was an individual as opposed to a thing I needed to do or something else, I had to, done. I did the work. I talked about how I could feel. I went and had that conversation at lunch and explained my feelings and why I think things need to improve. And they were like, F you. This is who I am. Deal with it. And I would go, okay, cross your name off my address book. Because what am I doing with you then? You're just a miserable son of a bitch. Why am I tried. You know what I mean? So, any thoughts about any of that? Sometimes you exaggerate because others don't believe the truth. Well, that's true too. Name of the book, author's name, Romancing the Shadow. Stephen Wolfe. He co-wrote it with somebody I never met, Connie Zing, but there's Stephen Wolfe down there, right? And then they also wrote Meeting the Shadow, but this is Romancing the Shadow. Let's see where oh my God, look at all this. Yeah, I'm not going to read all that. Yeah, you can see where I made a lot of stars and I underlined things and, and I always crack these things open. Yeah. And now, to tell you the truth, I don't even know if this exercise is in this book. That particular exercise. By the way, just doing that, just explaining that, it got me all a little bit verklempt, man. Brought up a lot of memories for me because before I did this book and that class, and by the way, here's an interesting story. I'm gonna finish with this. The only reason why I know about this exercise, and the only reason why I know about this book, and the only reason why I took that class with Stephen Wolfe, is because when I was living in my 2-bedroom apartment in Santa Monica with a view of the convalescent home, where I was, I lived there for 21 and a half years. And there was a grocery store called a Co-op that was a block and a half away. And it closed at 10 p.m. every night. Maybe not on Sunday, but maybe Saturday or Sunday were different. But it was during the week, it was 10 p.m. And I would, at 9:53, rip down the stairs and run over there. And of course, if people are still in the store, they have to wait till everybody leaves. People, please get your items ready because we are closing. And I would go over there and, you're in a grocery store and there'd be flyers and they shoved a flyer in the bag, my grocery bag. So think about it. I'm there and I'm shopping and I was in just a bad state at that point. I had nothing going on. Nobody knew me from Adam. I was single, whatever. I think the girlfriend at that time broke up with me, or we were in the midst of breaking up, or had just broken up. And I lived in this place forever, and it was a crap hole. It was not a good place at all. And I just thought maybe I'd end up at the convalescent home across the street after so many years. And so I go shopping, I get my groceries, I come back, I start unpacking the groceries, putting them, I didn't even have a pantry. Okay, there was no pantry. I built a cabinet about that deep that I could put soup cans on, and I put it on the wall next to my refrigerator. So I'm putting things away, and I see the flyer, and I throw it in the trash. What is this? I threw it in the trash. And then I put the groceries away, and I'm like, and maybe some of you know the story. Mary, I think, knows the story. I just said, well, what's the flyer? What's the flyer? Look at the flyer. I mean, it's just, that way I'll look at it and I can throw it back. And I look at the flyer and I see, hey, meet Dr. Stephen Wolfe, who wrote the book Romancing the Shadow for, his guide to a vital and authentic life. I want a vital and authentic life. All right. So, and it was like about 4 or 5 days later, this thing. And it was also in a synagogue, just it wasn't a Jewish thing. It just happened to be the space that he had for this meet and greet. And I walk into the room and I'm late. It's like a 15-minute walk and I'm still late. And they've already started. And it's a circle, just like what we had, circle. And he was there. And I remember there was one light. And the only part that was lit up was the inside of the circle. And everybody else was sort of dark. But there were about 20 people. And there was one chair left in the 20. And I sat in that chair. And I listened to this guy, and he talked about his book, and he talked about what he does. And he was a psychologist, psychiatrist or something as well. And he said, hey, I've got this course, and I can take 8 or 10 people. I can't remember. And if, all 20 of you will break you up into 2 different groups. And so I went, okay, screw it. I'm just going to do this thing. And it was not expensive, but it was... Me, I had no money, so I had to, whatever, I don't know how I paid for it. But I had enough to get there. And I did the course, and I got in this group. And it impacted me greatly. It's a technique that I still use, but I do it in my head. You know what I mean? I can just go, okay, what's the problem? I got a minute. And then sometimes I'll write the problem down and I'll say, okay, how does that make me feel? I already know how it makes me feel. That's the reason why it's a problem. It makes me feel like crap, various levels. Can I go deeper? That usually takes a little bit more ruminating inside my head, and I'll either do it or not. And I go, what do I got to do? And then I do it. And I go do it. Sometimes I still procrastinate though, because I don't feel like I'm afraid of the outcome. I still do that. That's still one of my flaws. I'm afraid of the outcome because if I know what the problem is and I have feelings about it, and then I have to confront it, and it doesn't go well, that means something's got to give. That means I got to fire somebody, or I got to stop a relationship, or I have to give up on that goal. Or I try again, So that is all for today. And that's, by the way, exactly 90 minutes, everybody. Problem, solution, resolution, manifestation. That's what today was about. My screen is frozen solid. Wow, fear and procrastination are very damaging to our goals. Well, that's the truth, Tony. Real growth often isn't about changing your circumstances. It's more often about changing yourself. Well, it's almost always about changing yourself. You know what I mean? Because changing yourself will change the circumstances too, right? Waving and waving and waving and waving and waving and waving to the people now. Oh my God, so much waving. You're the greatest, Tony. Well, I don't know why I stopped and read that. Huge procrastinator. Well, let's say you walked in, Sharky Girl SC, and I was your facilitator, and you said, Tony, I'm procrastinating all the time. It's really stagnating my life. I'm not getting anything done. I put things off and off and off. And then sometimes to the point where I don't ever even do them. And I feel like my life is diminished as a result. And I know I can do more because I know I'm a capable, loving, wonderful human being. I just feel like this one thing is killing me. And then I would say, oh, how's that make you feel? And you would go, awful, terrible. It makes me sad and depressed because I'm this kind of person. And I go, can you want to go deeper than that? And then you might tell a story or two about how it really ruined an opportunity for you, all right? And then I go, you got 7 days, what you gonna do? And then you go, and then you say, I'm gonna do this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And these are the 4 things. I'm gonna take 4 steps. No, I can't do that 4th one. It's too hard. I'm gonna do these 3 steps. I'm gonna call it, and I do this, I'm gonna write this thing, and I'll do this thing, and I'll follow through, and blah, blah, blah. And then 7 days later, I go, well, how'd it go? I didn't do it. And I punch you in the face. Of course I don't do that, waving. I mean, it's scary a little bit, but it's shocking on how that gets you to move your behind, right? Yeah, it's just being afraid of the outcome. It might go well, which might create 10 more steps. Like, oh no, now I've started the ball rolling. You know what I mean? Or it just falls flat in its face, and the outcome was, because you can't predict the future, man. The past is history. The future is a mystery. So take the present and use it as a crystal ball to make for better outcomes. Was that course the impetus that got you on the way to success? It was one. Eb Scott Peck's was one. You're my idol. Oh, you're very nice. I'm keeping up since P90X. You inspired me to get my bachelor's in exercise science. Welcome to the team. Good God, my man, or me lady. Thank you for that. See, now you got your degree in exercise science. Now you have improved yourself in this way. You have this knowledge that you didn't have before. Now you do, and now people can look to you to find answers, right? And so that's that. Here's life. Get your act together and help other people get theirs together. And then you're happy all the time. Not all the time. You know, car accident, not happy. You know, broken bone, not happy. But at least you're doing that thing, because a lot of people don't do that thing. They're self-helping their way to their final days, but they're never actually self-helping themselves so well that it's not about them helping themselves anymore. It's about helping others who are looking for your advice, not shoving your advice down their throat. All right, everybody, 90 minutes in. I still have to pack. I'm going to Mammoth tomorrow, and I'm going to ski, and it's going to be like 85 degrees while I'm skiing, which is weird. And then it's going to snow 2 days later. No, it's going to be 64, and then it's going to be 24. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The earth is pissed. I learned something new every Tuesday talks. Thank you. That's why I'm here. My pleasure, ENZZ.coach and Cody Magnum 333 and Harley Girl. Yeah, this was fun. I was like, sometimes I'm like, what am I going to talk about? I've talked about everything already 55 times. I mean, haven't we covered everything? But this one was, when I keep seeing that there's so much sadness and depression and angst in this country, and there's ways to push through it. Nothing's easy. Nothing's easy. Everything is hard. I tell that to Shauna. It's like, how come everything's always hard? It's just the path, I guess, especially as you get older. It's not getting easier when you get older, especially when you become, successful. Success, 10 times more work. So, but stick with the fitness, eat right, do your mindfulness practice, share what you know with people who want to know. It can be pretty cool. All right, everybody. Thank you very, very much. T. Horton,